President Trump may be ready to take his war on Venezuelan narco-terrorists to the next level. That would follow deadly drone strikes on suspected Maduro regime drug boats and a massive U.S. naval buildup in the Caribbean. Alexandria Hoff in Washington with more on this. Hey, Alexandria.
Hey, Julie, the president said that because of those strikes, maritime drug trafficking on those routes has decreased about 85%, which has prompted alleged poison runners to shift to land travel. So that's where the administration says they will be met with force next.
You probably noticed that people aren't wanting to be delivering by sea, and we'll be starting to stop them by land also. The land is easier. But that's going to start very soon. We warn them, stop sending poison to our country.
In its crackdown of criminal drug trafficking networks, the Trump administration has built up a dozen warships in the Caribbean and thousands of troops. On Monday, the U.S. designated the Venezuelan government, led by President Nicolas Maduro, a foreign terrorist organization. Now, since his first term, President Trump has been highly critical of Maduro. Under his leadership, Venezuela has fallen into economic disrepair.
They were probably the biggest abuser with Tren de Aragua and all the others that they sent in, the drug dealers and drug lords, the people that they sent in, the jailbirds. They opened their jails and prisons and dumped them into the United States, and we're not happy about it.
Now, yesterday, President Trump did suggest that there could be a diplomatic resolution to rising tensions, saying that he is willing to talk to Maduro if it will help save American lives. Julie.
All right, Alexandria Hoff, thank you very much. In focus now, Brent Sadler, retired Navy captain, former Pentagon official and Heritage Foundation senior fellow. Thank you so much. What's your take on this?
Well, I think it's a natural progression of the war against the cartels. And I think that's important to reemphasize, that these attacks that you first saw take place in September against the cartels' drug boats in the Caribbean spread about a month later into the Pacific. And so as the heat continues to be applied to the cartels and tamping down their bottom line, because if they can't move their product to market, they can't make the money and pay off all of their protection rackets and governments, and it all falls apart. But it's going to take time to do that. And if there's not a political patience, then they have to try new avenues to apply that pressure. The other one that hasn't been mentioned yet is the movement of their narcotics products via aircraft. And I'm not talking about the commercial aircraft, which they do smuggle on board, but also their chartered, purpose-built aircraft that are also flying around.
What's your take on Venezuelan's president, Nicolas Maduro, and his tough talk? Because he sees that the president means business. He's never had a president, quite frankly, in the United States who has actually taken strikes against this narco trafficking that's been going on for years and could have saved thousands and thousands of lives had somebody stepped up. So does he take the president seriously? And do you believe that there's a potential talk for some sort of resolution between Maduro and Trump?
Well, I think so. I mean, the back channel conversations in the last few weeks from Maduro to the United States, I mean, I think that's an indication that his benefactors, the cartels in Venezuela, are worried. And again, Maduro is just the visible national state face of this very large criminal enterprise that's worth upwards to close to $1 trillion in narcotics trafficking, not just in cocaine, but also in fentanyl and human trafficking, and the list goes on. So the pressure is starting to have an effect. You see it with this outreach, but simply replacing Maduro doesn't guarantee putting the death knell on these cartels. It's bigger than Venezuela, sadly. Right. But again, getting that nation state sanction removed is an important element.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to admit that we've got him backed into a corner. I mean, militarily, Venezuela doesn't stand a chance at standing up to the United States. I mean, their whole military, he's calling out basically citizens to come out and defend the country if the United States moves in, which clearly, what are they going to do? Like recruit grandmas and uncles and aunts?
Yeah, many of those videos are not very fear-inspiring, but I think it's a political ploy to try to influence, you know, first and foremost, the domestic population and his cartel supporters, that he's all in supporting them and defending them, but also for U.S. public, too, to try to sow doubt and try and get more political discord to push back on what I think is a noble cause, and that's the destruction of the cartels by taking out their business model.
Yeah, Venezuela and Colombia need to get on board. Otherwise, I mean, the president is just going to go hard, and they're not going to like the results. And obviously, we will win. All right, I want to move now over to this story about Russian President Vladimir Putin speaking out yesterday on President Trump's plan to end the Russia-Ukraine war. He called the draft U.S.-Ukraine agreement a, quote, set of issues put forward for discussion. He also offered this warning. And I quote, the war will end once Ukrainian troops withdraw from the territories they occupy. If they don't withdraw, we will achieve this through military means. All this ahead of next week's Moscow visit by Trump envoy Steve Witkoff. Listen.
What we're seeing from Vladimir Putin is an attempt to use the prospect for negotiations just to try to encourage the United States not to give Ukraine military assistance. We've seen this in the past, going back to Alaska and other efforts to negotiate a peace deal. Putin has held out some hope, but he's carried on the war ruthlessly. And his objective, which is to overthrow Ukraine's democratically elected government, has not changed.
Okay, so basically we're back to the drawing board because we know that Vladimir Putin has no intention on any kind of discussion unless it involves Ukraine giving up their own land, and Ukraine has said, no, they're not going to do that. So then where does this go? We're at a stalemate again.
Well, I think it's important to state that a ceasefire is not an effort to change Moscow's or even Ukraine's long-term strategic objectives. For Ukraine, it's regaining all their lost territory. For Moscow, it's the complete and total subjugation of Ukraine. That's going to be a new reality that it's going to be shaping the security calculation in Europe for years going forward. But what the near-term goal is in this ceasefire is to stop the fighting, freeze it at the effective front line or line of control, and have the two armed forces step back about 20 kilometers so there can be a cooling off, and then allow real deep negotiations about what will be the final, or at least a longer-term peaceful resolution to their borders, their economic futures, and any other kind of diplomatic openings that might be offered to either party. But certainly Russia wants to get back into the Western economy.
Well, here's the problem. Any negotiation or discussion had by Vladimir Putin can't be trusted. Russia cannot be trusted. They've even threatened yet again. Okay, if he's serious about negotiations and actual discussions with President Trump, then he wouldn't be throwing out threats. You don't throw out threats in the midst of a ceasefire. You keep your mouth shut and you talk behind closed doors. But instead, he's threatening that he'll actually respond militarily if Ukraine doesn't back out of their own territory. It's not even Russia territory. So those are fighting words. So there's no way that there's going to be a resolution if he's going to continue to talk this way.
The reality of the Russian armed forces is a key point here. Can the Russian military realistically continue at this pace or even an increased pace? There's a big question on that. And then, again, the intelligence and the clarity, that's something that's beyond what we're hearing in the open press. But pretty clearly, the Russian people, if you listen to them, are also getting tired of this war. So it comes back to why the rhetoric, why the increased military operations on Putin's side. It is part of trying to shape the negotiations so that he can achieve through a ceasefire deal what he can't achieve through force of arms easily. And so I look at this as perhaps more akin that he's interested in entering into negotiation, but he's trying to set the best conditions. It seems counterintuitive, but it fits very nicely into Putin's past behaviors.
So he basically wants to go out with a bang and say, yeah, I've got control here, when quite frankly, maybe he's going to start to fold. But of course, he would never admit to that. Yeah. All right. Makes sense. Thank you so much for talking to us. Very interesting stuff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.